Hi, I'm Chris Allen and welcome to another EHC Tech Tip. In this video we're going to be looking at the Comet Combination Unit and how to set up the user control panel and also the advanced engineers features. So first of all, let's look at the screen. On the screen we have a house symbol with a temperature for the hot water cylinder. If an external weather compensator was used, we would also have a temperature above the roof showing the outside temperature. So first of all, let's look at the basic settings. So within the basic settings, this is where the user can set their central heating and hot water programs along with boiler and hot water temperatures. First of all, we want to setting the boiler temperature. This is the temperature of the water going through the radiators. Normally we would recommend a region of 65 to 70 degrees. To change this, simply click on the top dial, the number will start to flash and we can select the temperature by rotating the dial and confirming by once again clicking. If we then want to set the hot water temperature, we can scroll down and click the hot water temperature. Within this section we have two temperature ranges. We have economy temperature, which is the minimum temperature the cylinder will fall to out with the timed heat periods, and the comfort temperature, which is the main temperature when set to heat. Generally we would recommend the comfort temperature between 55 and 65 degrees and the economy temperature set to around 40 degrees. However, a lower temperature can be chosen. To navigate back, we simply go down to end and it will return us back to the settings menu. If using a lower hot water temperature than 60 degrees, we strongly recommend that the anti-Legionella function is activated, which is tank cleansing. This will heat the hot water cylinder once a week to 70 degrees, meaning that there will be a prevention of Legionella from forming. This can be selected by choosing the day of the week and the time, which factory settings is Wednesday at 1 o'clock, and it will work for a duration of 60 minutes. If we want this to work, we need to change automatic mode to yes. This feature will now activate every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. If your cylinder temperature is being kept at 60 or above, there is no dire need to use this feature, however it can still be left on if required. Again, if we navigate down to the end, it will take us back to the main settings menu. From here, we can set our central heating program. Clicking the top dial, this will take us into the central heating menu, where we are faced with weekly and numbers 1 through to 7. Programs of 1 through to 7 are our different schedule programs that we can set. For customers who are using the same heating times 7 days a week, we only need to refer to one program. However, if you want different times for different days of the week due to shift patterns, you can set them accordingly. By clicking onto the program you wish to change, this will then open up the time periods to when the heating will come on. If we want to make a change to any of these, we simply click the top dial and the on hour will start to flash. This can then be changed by rotating the dial left and right. Clicking again will allow us to change the minutes value. Click again will now allow us to change the hour when the heating will go back off. Again, we then go into the minutes value. And finally, we move along to a tick to confirm that entry, or we can alter the dial to a cross, which will delete the entry. We can then move down to the next time period by rotating the dial and again repeating the same steps as before. If you want to delete an entry, we simply click and continue to follow through until we get a tick, change it to an X and click. This will then delete that time period. Once the program times have been set, we can then go down to end, and this will revert us back to the central heating program. Once the programs are set, we need to go into the weekly section and assign the program to each day of the week. So if we are using the same times and same programs for all days of the week, we simply have the program number set to the day. If we are choosing a different program for a certain day, for instance we may use program 2 for Tuesday, we can click into this and change it to program 2. On this screen, this now means that on Monday to Wednesday through to Sunday, we will use program 1 times. However, on Tuesday, it will use the times set within program 2. To exit this menu, press end. And again, to come back, press end again. This will bring us back to the main settings menu, where we can now set the hot water program times. Again, this is the same similar setup to the central heating times, where we can have a different program for each day of the week if required. However, most of the times with water, the same program for each day is perfectly adequate. Again, going into program number 1, we can see the on and off times for each period, and through this we then click the top dial to adjust the on hour. We can then adjust the minutes, we can adjust the off hour and then the off minutes. At the end of the screen we are then prompted with a temperature. The sun will mean that during this period it will heat to the comfort temperature previously set, or we can change that to a snowflake, which will put it into a frost mode, and it will only protect the system from frost at that point and heat no higher. So in general, for hot water during these hours, we need to ensure the sun symbol is selected. By clicking the top dial, this will then move to the end of the line where we can choose a tick or a cross. Once again, the tick being confirm and the cross being delete. Moving down to the second line, we can then alter the second line in the same way. If we want to add an additional time period into this program, we can rotate to the plus symbol, and this will add an additional line in, where we can then set the times according to the previous setup. Once the program is set, simply go to end, and now go into weekly, and ensure that the correct program is set against the chosen day of the week. Again, if we're only setting one program, we want the number 1 against all days of the week. However, should we have a certain day that we want different times, once setting one of the other programs, we can then assign that program to the day that we require the different times. Once this is done, simply go down to end, end again, and this will bring us back to the main settings menu. To remove, go back to the time and date can then be set from here, year, month, day, the current weekday, and the hour and minute of the clock. Again, end will take you back to settings. To revert back to the main screen, simply use end and rotate the dial back. Okay, so now that we've looked at the basic user settings and how to set up your program, we're now going to look into the advanced settings for the engineer during commissioning and setting up the boiler. First of all, rotate the dial through to the menu Service and Configuration. From here we can first look at the preview of parameters, which will allow us to look at all the live sensor data within the boiler. Simply by scrolling through the menu and reading off the data from the line. To exit this menu, simply go to end. Now if we want to change any of the advanced configurations and set up the boiler, we want to go into this menu again. This time let's go to configuration and enter the code 987. From here we can set central heating parameters, maximum boiler temperature, set boiler temperature, regulation. Regulation is for the external weather compensator. If the external weather compensator is not being used, we need to set regulation to manual. However, if it is being used, we need to click and change that to Weather Comp and click again. This will now add a couple of extra features to that menu. So the Weather Comp curve, the coefficiency curve, would need to be set as per the graph within the installation manual, depending on the geographical area you're in. We can then set down to offset. Generally this would be 0. Maximum boiler temperature can also be requested here, and a set boiler temperature. Outside temperature, off, basically means this is the temperature at which the outside temperature will be when the boiler is prohibited from working. This can be adjusted accordingly, but will come factory set at 20 degrees. If weather compensation is not being used, simply set this to manual. The boiler temperature can then be set. The outside temperature threshold for blocking the boiler can still be utilised. However, if the user wants to be able to run the heating above an outside temperature of 20 degrees, you will need to increase this temperature accordingly. By clicking end, this will bring us back out the menu, where we can then go back into configuration. And we can then look at the hot water settings. Here we can set the hot water coil. Hot water coil temperature we would tend to recommend 70 degrees, which can then be changed and adjusted. And then we go to end. From here we can then set room temperature settings on the sensor type. If you're using the wireless room thermostat supplied with the boiler, sensor type requires to be set to RT. Should you use the NTC type sensor, which is also supplied, we need to change this to IS. If IS is being used, the boiler will control and monitor the room temperature, which now allows you to set temperature control and any hysterics required. In most cases the wireless stat will be used and the temp sensor will be set to RT. RT will also be required if any other third party room thermostat or smart stat is being used. Our next section on the configuration menu is pump. Within the pump section we have pump overrun, which when the boiler is in standby, the pump will run at 13:15 every day in standby mode, just to prevent any type of seizure. Automatic mode, yes. For diagnostics purposes we can use this to turn it to no, which will allow the pump to run continuously. For normal operation, please ensure this is yes. The pump type should always be set to Grundfos for our boilers, and regulation should be variable. Venting is a feature to help clear any airlocks during system fill, which will run the pump at full power in a pulsing mode. The head of the pump can also be adjusted by clicking from 5 through to 7 metres head. To exit the menu, simply click end. Max rated power allows for the boiler to be manually derated in 1/3 of its total increment. This can be utilised where the boiler has been oversized temporarily due to further extension work to the property, and then increased later on. To change the boiler's output, simply click and rotate to the desired value. Please don't use this for an energy saving feature, as if the boiler is adjusted down and it is less than the output the property requires, the boiler will then struggle to heat. Pressure sensor can then also be activated and deactivated for the purpose of testing, but we always recommend that the sensor is left in the on position with the yes setting. Once the advanced parameters are set according to the installation, we simply go to End and navigate back to the home screen.